The week's end top stories at NBR. Executive resignations at KiwiRail. Orion's Capital's second fund makes its first investment. Prosecutions relating to multiple wage subsidy applications. And there's more coming right up. Kia ora and welcome to NBR This Week. We start with a wrap of the end of the week's top business stories from the authority in New Zealand business news since 1970, nbr.co.nz. Then we'll take a look back at the top NBR Today stories for the past week. I'm Paul Brennan. Thanks so much for joining us. Grocery and recipe delivery service My Food Bag says its trading for the half year to September 30 was in line with expectations and an interim dividend would be paid in December. In a statement to the NZX, the company said its gross revenue net of customer credits and discounts for the half was $98.4 million and its deliveries for the period totalled 808,000. Both figures were in line with expectations, it said. The NZX statement said the board reaffirmed its prospectus forecast revenue and earnings forecasts for the full year and confirmed its intention to declare an interim dividend. My Food Bag's prospectus indicated an expected interim dividend of $6.4 million. Orion's Capital's $100 million second fund has made its first investment, acquiring marine sports accessories company Railblazer and injection moulding business NTD Plastics for an undisclosed price. The Tauranga-based private equity firm has taken a 68% stake in Nautical Group Holdings, NGH, which in turn has purchased all shares in the two companies. Ross Pratt founded Railblazer in 2010 and acquired 90% of NTD in 2016. He and two existing senior staff now make up the rest of the NGH shareholder register, with Pratt retaining a 28% stake. Silverdale-based Railblazer produces and sells small-end marine and paddle sports accessories internationally, including kayak carts, rod holders, and a range of mounts sold under the Railblazer and Sea Tug brands. NZX-listed aged care provider Arvida went into trading halt this morning as it announced a significant capital raise to fund the $345 million acquisition of Arena Living. Arena Living has 6 retirement villages in Auckland and Tauranga, including Peninsula Club, Mayfair Village, Knightsbridge Village, Park Lane Village, Mount Eden Gardens and Ocean Shores Village. The acquisition will add 648 villas, 340 apartments and 58 serviced apartments to Arvida's existing portfolio of 4,325 units and beds, representing a 24% increase in portfolio size, as well as development opportunities for up to 250 care suites and units. Arvida will fund the acquisition through a $155 million underwritten placement and $175 million underwritten rights offer. The Ministry of Social Development has confirmed its prosecution of 2 people in relation to multiple wage subsidy applications as it hands a further 10 cases to the Serious Fraud Office for further investigation. In a statement, the Ministry's General Manager of Integrity and Debt, Warren Hudson, said charges were filed against the 2 in the Auckland District Court on September 29th. One person faces 8 charges of dishonestly using a document. The other faces 3 charges of receiving property obtained by an imprisonable offence. The Property Council believes feedback on the implementation of no access clauses in existing commercial leases has fallen on deaf ears, with the government missing the crux of the issue, cash flow. The government lease amendment came as somewhat of a surprise in late September, with the law inserting a no access clause, such as the ones that triggered rent relief during the first level 4 lockdown. The clause is standard in the typical ADLS commercial lease, but can be carved out or not included in bespoke leases. The amendment came about as part of a package to support tenants through the lockdown. Chief Executive Leonie Freeman said the Finance and Expenditure Committee's report recommending the passing of the COVID-19 Response Management Measures legislation bill, which encompassed the lease change, showed government hadn't listened to people on the ground. Those are our top stories as we head into the weekend, the full versions of which, along with all our breaking business news columns and opinion, are at nbr.co.nz right now. You're watching NBR This Week, a brief look back now at the week's top stories from our daily business video news bulletin, NBR Today. On Monday, Board approves takeover. The board of fuel retailer Z Energy has unanimously approved a takeover by ASX-listed Ampol via a scheme of arrangement. The deal is priced at $3.78 a share, the same price as a non-binding proposal announced in August before Ampol was granted a 6-week due diligence period. Under the scheme, Ampol has committed to sell its Gull subsidiary as part of the process to gain Commerce Commission approval. In a statement to the ASX, Ampol said it was working on a trade sale or an initial public offer of Gull to effect the divestment. The sale would be expected to happen within a prescribed period of time following completion of the transaction, meaning the transaction is not expected to be conditional on completion of the divestment. Ampol has indicated it would seek a secondary listing of its shares on the NZX if the deal proceeds. It's NBR This Week, the week's top stories from our daily video business news bulletin NBR Today. From Tuesday, the economy rebounds. The government's financial statements for the year ended June 30 confirm the economy has rebounded strongly from last year's COVID-19 restrictions. For the year, the government recorded an operating deficit excluding investment gains and losses of $4.069 billion. In the previous year, which included the first nationwide lockdown, the deficit had been $23.05 billion, and as recently as the May budget, the Treasury had forecast a deficit of $15.1 billion. A better than expected tax take, reflecting more economic activity than forecast, was largely behind the government recording a lower deficit. Tax revenue in the 2021 year totalled $98 billion compared with $85.1 billion the year before. Spending was also about $3 billion lower than the budget forecast of $107.7 billion. This is NBR This Week, the past week's top 5 business stories from NBR Today. From Wednesday, Booster defends Kiwisaver transition cost. Kiwisaver provider Booster is defending charging default members a transition cost when they automatically switch from conservative to balanced funds on December 1st, saying the Financial Markets Authority has been clear on who bears the cost. But the FMA says transition costs must be borne by the relevant members only unless the provider chooses to meet the costs themselves, with other default providers yet to decide on whether they will charge a fee. The costs relate to changes to the default Kiwisaver provider regime announced in May. The default providers are those where new Kiwisaver members are automatically enrolled if they do not choose their own fund, at the time representing about 381,000 of the total 3.1 million Kiwisaver members. It's NBR This Week, the top business stories from our daily video news bulletin NBR Today. From Thursday, rapid antigen tests on the way. The government has finally approved the importation of 300,000 rapid antigen tests for a coalition of about 25 businesses keen to use them in their workplaces. Director General of Health, Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, has given the businesses an exemption to import and use the tests. In a news statement announcing the deal, Associate Health Minister Ayesha Varel said the businesses had ordered the tests after working at pace with the government on the new scheme. But the government has faced criticism for being too slow to adopt rapid testing as part of a suite of measures to better manage the COVID-19 pandemic. Business NZ Chief Executive Kirk Hope welcomed the announcement but questioned why it had taken so long. This is NBR This Week. Now we're up to Friday's top story. Several senior executives at KiwiRail have resigned amidst what NBR understands are concerns over Chief Executive Greg Miller's leadership style. Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Chief Executive Todd Moyle has resigned and will leave at Christmas. Group General Manager Human Resources Andrew Norton, who's been on secondment to the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet since May, has also resigned, as has Chief Corporate Affairs Officer Usman Pervez. The latest move means that in the past 2 years, 6 out of Miller's 10-strong senior executive team have resigned. There have also been recent management resignations just below the senior executive team. A KiwiRail spokesperson declined to comment on the resignations or the role played by Miller's leadership style in their departures. You've been watching our review of the week's top 5 NBR Today stories. You can find the full versions of those stories and more with all our daily breaking business news, columns and opinion at nbr.co.nz right now. Saturday at NBR, in Fact or Fiction, Brent Edwards and Grant Walker debate economic recovery, a climate plan and an excited ACT party. While on Sunday, Neville Gibson's book review centres on the confessions of a career diplomat. I'm Paul Brennan. Thanks for watching NBR This Week. Have a great weekend. I look forward to being with you again from Monday on NBR Today.